Yes, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. It's Friday, and yes, I am sick. No, I do not believe I have the COVID, or else I would not be here. But my wife is, and I know a lot of you guys have asked about this, and God bless your heart. Bless your hearts, guys. I love you. My wife has a normal seasonal cold and flu. And so she doesn't have any of the symptoms, and in fact, her happy ass is out at work right now, and she works in an AFC home. So she's a medical person. She does not get it's like medical, because she does medical stuff, but also takes care of people who can't take care of themselves. That's a job that doesn't end. And so she is out there busting her ass as usual, because, you know, those people, nurses, medical professionals, they don't get days off. They really don't. And so, you know, we need to give them the respect that they deserve. I think the first way would be, of course, giving them a living wage. Do you know that a lot of AFC home workers don't make $15 an hour? They make 11, 10, sometimes $12 an hour at most. What are we doing? What are we doing with those people? No, they deserve, especially at a time like this. It really shows you how important those workers are, not only to, you know, the economy, but also to humanity in general. And so because they're taking care of the most vulnerable, even when they themselves are not feeling great. And so thank you guys for all the love, by the way. And I return the love back to you guys 150%. Like, you guys are amazing. And you're helping keep us afloat during this incredibly difficult time. I mean, we're all social distancing and self-quarantining, and sometimes people are like, you know, forced to do so, like they did in California. Others here where I live in Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, she decided, no, we're not going to go in that direction, at least not yet. We're not going to do like a forced lockdown or anything. But she again encourages social distancing, and I think I'm pretty fortunate, as I'm in a county that doesn't have any reported cases yet. But there's always that but, and it's a big one. Yes, insert your jokes here. We don't know, like, because we don't have the testing. Just like a lot of different places in America, they don't have adequate testing. So we don't know. And then, of course, you have people that can't afford their health insurance. We got a story today of a woman who got treated for COVID-19. She survived. She's doing well, but she got hit with a massive bill. And there are millions of people in this country, 27 million to be exact, that don't have insurance, that are in her position. You know, well, I mean, maybe that many, because she's also immunocompromised. So I'll let you guys know in the story, but I mean, that's a bad situation inside of a bad situation. And so the masks are falling everywhere, especially on our American version of capitalism and healthcare. And oh, I like my private insurance. Well, not if you're laid off and it doesn't work, and you don't have it because you don't have a job anymore. So masks are falling all over the place. Speaking of masks, by the way, I do want to address really quickly the big news that happened yesterday politically. Tulsi Gabbard dropped out. So Tulsi Gabbard ended her presidential campaign yesterday and then, in a shocking twist, endorsed Joe Biden. Now, look, I know some of you are fans of Tulsi Gabbard. I didn't really talk about her a whole lot because I didn't really feel that she was relevant to the race. And I'm being honest with you guys. You could disagree. You could be like, how dare you? She's extremely relevant. No, look, her issues on foreign policy are better than a lot of the other establishment Democrats. But generally, she had no momentum in the race. She had no path to the nomination. And what's really surprising is, again, her endorsement of Joe Biden, the establishment candidate, who really kind of embodies all the stuff that she said she didn't like, the anti-war stuff, right? Or Joe Biden being massively pro-Iraq war. And so, not to mention what happened in Libya under the Obama administration. And so it seems like a strange move to me. Like, hey, that doesn't seem to be too progressive. Now, I know you can come back and say, well, Bernie Sanders is going to endorse Joe Biden. Yeah, because he's kind of in a position where he has to. He's a very high profile figure. He's already at the outset said, yes, I will work for and I will campaign for Joe Biden. So we already knew that going into the outset. It's not like the hypocritical move like you see from Tulsi Gabbard, who did have a choice because she wasn't in that spotlight and she didn't go and say, no, I'm going to endorse the eventual nominee. She had the ability to be able to make a choice. And I know that there's this thing going around where her brother is like, I know her brother heard from somebody or something. I don't know how far that chain goes, but something about Bernie Sanders, saying that she didn't want, or that he didn't want her endorsement. Look, and I have to say, okay, then maybe stay out of it. Then maybe don't endorse anybody. I mean, but no, it was explicitly, if that's true, if that entire thing is true, then you just, okay, so Bernie Sanders didn't want your endorsement. So do you decide to get all salty about it and go, oh yeah? Well, fine. I'm going to endorse Joe Biden anyway. Like, that's kind of a dick move. Maybe she wants a cabinet appointment. She's probably never going to get it. But if so, look, I don't know. If so, it seems like a kind of a cheap move. And I don't know, a little bit opportunist. That's just my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want. That's fine. But, at the end of the day, I appreciate what she did in 2016. But then you go and kind of re-examine why she did that. And maybe it wasn't so much of a progressive stance after all. I don't know. So, I mean, that's just, again, that's me. You can disagree with me if you want. But those are my own thoughts on the issue. So even if you guys disagree with me, I still love you. And at the end of the day, isn't that what matters? Love. Okay. Anyway. All right. So, I guess let's get to some of the stories. Isn't it funny that I make fun of Donald Trump for all the sniffling and now I'm doing it? But I am actually sick, so to be fair. David Anderson says, why is Jimmy Dore so obsessed with Tulsi? I don't know. I don't know Jimmy Dore's mind. I don't really know him all that well. Never really had a chance to talk to him. I have had a chance to talk with Graham Elwood and Ron Placone. Those two, I know Ron very, very well, and Ron is very pro Tulsi, and so, but also is pro Bernie Sanders, and so I guess it was the respect that they had. If I'm to guess, it's the respect that I have, or that they have for somebody that turned against the DNC. But now it's one of those things where, well, you turned it, now you went in favor of the DNC. So, I mean, how do you really excuse that? And, I saw Ron talking about this in a live stream. He says, look, I'm disappointed in it. But it's the same thing that I was disappointed in Bernie Sanders for endorsing Hillary Clinton. And I suppose that's definitely fair. As far as Jimmy, I don't know. I don't know. All right. No deathing. I'm not gonna death. I'm not gonna death. I'm good. I'll be all right. Okay. No, RB, but it makes you. That's a little strange, but to each their own. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get into the one more thing too. The progressive movement is fragmented enough as it is, and so I don't want to punch left, right? I'm going to reserve my fire mostly for the establishment. So that's about as critical as I'm going to get of Tulsi Gabbard or some of the others. I like Graham. Graham is a great guy. I talked to him when I was in Philadelphia on his show, and of course Ron is a great friend of mine, and so we just happen to disagree on this issue with Tulsi Gabbard. All right. No, Chris, that's not going to work. There will be no healing through the screen. Okay. James says Tulsi Gabbard is a person of nuance. Look, nuance is really important. That's something that I talk about on the show all the time. And so, I mean, I don't really know. I haven't been really following Tulsi Gabbard all that much during this election cycle. As I've said before, it's been kind of hands off because I didn't think that she was all that all too relevant to the conversation. All right, but let's go forth.
I'd like him to go back to the State Department.
Oops. All right, let me fix that just a minute.
Or as they call it, the Deep State Department. I'd like him to go back to the State Department, or as they call it, the Deep State Department, if you don't mind. I'd like to have him go back and do his job. So does anybody have any question? Please.
That was the National Institute of Health immunologist, Dr. Anthony Fauci, literally facepalming during a Trump press briefing. Because, what other reaction are you going to have when President Moron starts going off about the deep state? The Deep State Department. Sorry. By the way, that is his own State Department. That is his own government. And so the reaction here is pretty perfect. I mean, it's basically when there's so much cringe offered by the president that you violate your own advice to not touch your face. Remember, this is a guy saying, don't touch your face, wash your hands. And this guy literally got brought to, I'm going to touch my face. Oh. And I just did it too. Because you can't help it. It's facepalm worthy. But look, and the reason, of course, he touches his face is We have a moron who is during a time of massive crisis, he is still attacking his own government. And of course, during the whole thing, also took shots at the media. So it's the fake news media won't give me any credit. Remember, this is a guy who gave himself a 10 out of 10 on his response so far. Oh, no. No, not 10 out of 10. It's going to get worse. It'll get worse before it gets better. In the United States, we have not seen worse yet. So it just makes me ask, like, why? Why are you the way that you are? Why? It defies all reason. The only thing that I can come up with is that in the absence of being able to do MAGA rallies, right? So he can't get out and he can't speak in front of his crowd, in front of his people, right? And so he's got to get it out somehow, right? He's got to sit there and stroke his ego in front of a camera, in front of people. And so he just does it during the press briefings. Now, these briefings are supposed to be informative and reassuring, right? You're supposed to use this to let everybody know what's going on and what the government is actually trying to do about it and how far they are along when it comes to plans and et cetera, right? He has turned these into very not reassuring things where, look, he sits there and he attacks the press. And look, I cannot stress how dangerous and stupid this is. Dr. Fauci, in that moment, was America. He was all of us. And to be fair, then again, to most of us, we've had that look on our face since day one. Like you want to laugh, and then it hits you. Oh, God, this is our president. Not good. Very bad. Okay. So let's move on to something serious. At least two Republican, it's one of these days. I'm having a day. At least two Republican congressmen are facing calls to resign after being caught enriching themselves off the current crisis. So now first was Republican Senator Richard Burr. So now a couple of days ago, news came out that he had sold off some stock ahead of a stock market crash. Now, the GOP congressman, according to the Daily Beast, sold off a significant percentage of his stocks, unloading between $628,000 and $1.72 million of his holdings on February 13th in 33 separate transactions. So, I mean, wow. Around $1.72 million. So now the problem is that he is the head of the Intelligence Committee and has access to the government's most highly classified information about threats to American security. This is information that we do not have access to as the general public. And more importantly, or at least when it comes to this story, normal traders on Wall Street do not have access to this kind of information. Information that would appear to put Mr. Burr at an advantage. If you have information that you know is going to have a gigantic impact on the markets, as we have seen, and you use that information to help yourself because you have stocks, well, that is a crime. That is called insider trading. That is illegal, right? So now his committee, by the way, was directly involved because they were given daily COVID-19 briefings around the same time that Burr was selling his stock. So he gets the briefings, classified. Well, I don't know if they were classified briefings, to be honest, but they were briefings that other people were not getting at this point. So they might as well be classified. And he takes this information instead of warning the American people. Well, or, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to help the American people? No, he helps himself first. Oh, great. Now, by the way, a week after Burr's sales, the stock market began its sharp decline and has lost about 30% since. So we are beyond a bear market. We are heading towards recession. Now, and instead of doing anything about it, no, he protected his own assets. Now, what makes it worse is that Burr was he was quoted in a secret recording captured by NPR. Now, this was in February 20. It was in the end of February 27th, in which he told donors that he was foreseeing a very serious situation that had huge financial repercussions. So now, that's what he's telling his donors in private. Hey, man, look, this thing is it's very virulent. It's going to spread very fast, and so I think that's going to have a huge impact on the markets. People are going to have to stay home, and telework and all that, and so that's going to have a huge effect on the consumer-based economy. That's what he told his donors. He was telling the public though that no, nothing to worry about. We got this. In fact, in a February 7th op-ed that he co-authored with another senator, he assured the public that the United States today is better prepared than ever before to face emerging public health threats. We are better prepared than ever before. Let me tell you how prepared we are. Look around. Does it look like we're prepared? I mean, we have hospitals that don't have enough ventilators. We don't have testing kits. Where are the testing kits? I mean, we don't have it. We have a healthcare system that's woefully inadequate at the best of times to cover the millions and millions of people who don't have health insurance or can't afford to use their health insurance. Now we're in a global crisis, and it just kind of lays bare all the problems in our system, not only in our healthcare system, but our economic system as well, where these corporations are over leveraged already, and were over leveraged before because they were given giant tax cuts and used those tax cuts to boost their stock. And then because you had such cheap loans available, we're able to go and borrow those loans at very low interest rates and become over leveraged. Well, now these companies and these corporations are getting massive bailouts thanks to the taxpayer and thanks to the Federal Reserve, who's just conjuring up money from thin air and throwing it to the banks. We have all these problems. And yet these congressmen, and there's more than just one, it's just Richard Burr, are like, let's protect our bottom line first. Yay. So that's what we have. Now, again, I mentioned that he's not the first person to dump stock. No, there's another one. There were sales by Dianne Feinstein, she's a Democrat from California. So she also dumped stock prior to the economic downturn. So now analysts are saying, well, that not quite connected to directly with COVID-19. So, but still, maybe we should look into that. That's what the analysts are saying. You also had Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, also dumped his stock. And there's another one actually. That's James Inhofe, also dumped stock. So, but there's even more. There's GOP Congresswoman Senator Kelly Lafleur. Now, the Daily Beast reported that Lafleur had sold off millions of dollars worth of stock holdings following a private January 24th Senate Health Committee meeting on COVID-19. So that was even further before. I mean, Burr sold it at the end of February. In January, Lafleur's like, dump it now. Well, of course, okay, that says two things, right? She had incredible foresight, for one, because she had the information and made a decision and was like, okay, we got to get out of this. Now, she, of course, denies all this. Oh, no, I don't make those decisions at all. Sure, Jan. Sure. but also that the government knew about this for quite some time, knew it was a problem. And this is all while Donald Trump was out there calling it fake news and a Democrat hoax. So keep that in mind. Not only that, but Fox News was also calling it a Democrat hoax. So, now, what's interesting about Lafleur's case is her connections, right? So not only is she a congresswoman and she's getting these private briefings, but her husband, Jeffrey Sprecher, is also the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. Kind of a small, tiny, itsy bitty little, not so important position when it comes to, stocks and finance, right? Wouldn't you agree? No, look, Sprecher stole stock on January 24th, the same day that his wife sat in the briefing from two members of Donald Trump's COVID-19 task force. But it's got nothing to do with that, right? No, of course not. No, nothing to do. You guys are crazy. No, they don't make any of their own stock decisions. The guy who heads up the New York Stock Exchange. Now, this isn't the only thing. Now, the couple sold stock between that day and February 14th, worth a total of $1.2 million and $3.1 million. That's a lot of money. That's not an insignificant amount. Just pointing that out. Now, in addition to the sales, if that's not enough evidence to show that there is some serious insider trading going on, they also purchased stock in a maker of software that helps people work from home. And that just happened just before millions of Americans were advised to work from home. Gee, what a lucky break. What a great coincidence. Except that it's not. It's neither of those things. Now, Lafleur, according to the Daily Beast, reported the first sale of stock jointly owned by her and her husband on January 24th. The very day that her committee, the Senate Health Committee, hosted a private all senators briefing from administration officials, including CDC Director Anthony Fauci. NIH Director Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So Burr, much like Lafleur, had also voiced optimism about the strength of the economy and the Trump administration's response to the crisis, even as she was privately bailing stock. Awesome. Great. Look, this is obvious and deep. Corruption. Burr, by the way, getting back to him for a second, and this is how deep the corruption in Congress goes. Burr was one of the senators that opposed a 2012 bill that barred lawmakers and their staff from using non-public information for trades and required regular disclosure of those trades. That is known as the Stock Act. Richard Burr says, no, I'm not interested in the Stock Act because I want to use my information, my advantage over you plebs in order to make money. And if the stock market goes down, I'm going to save money. Well, of course he'd be against that. Now, Lafleur, of course, she wasn't in Congress. She's very new to Congress, actually. But she had served in private industry prior to this. And again, her husband literally runs the New York Stock Exchange. So, yeah. It's gross. It's obvious corruption. And it's not legal. It is illegal. You can't do that. It's insider trading 101. And really kind of illustrates who these people are. Again, instead of properly warning the American public and actually being real about the economic and health dangers of this entire thing, they instead chose to look out for themselves and their own pocketbook. I mean, it's clear greed. It's sort of the financial, Wall Street equivalent of buying out all the toilet paper and then reselling it at a higher price. I mean, that's what they're doing. Screw you, I got mine. These senators should resign immediately. Richard Burr, gone. Kelly Lafleur, gone. Now, Kelly is still defending herself on social media saying, oh, no, it's not illegal. What I did, I didn't actually do it. I was not in control of any of my accounts. That's ridiculous. Again, I don't believe this at all. All right. And so, no, she's apparently going to fight it and probably go down with the ship, which she deserves it. She deserves to be in prison. Now, progressives echoed that sentiment, by the way. Ilhan Omar said this: there need to be 2 open Senate seats by the morning. No excuses. I agree. AOC said it is stomach turning that the first thoughts that these senators had to a dire and classified COVID briefing was to how to profit off this crisis. They didn't mobilize to help families or prep response. They dumped stock. Senator Lafleur needs to resign too. Cox Radio correspondent Jamie Dupree also talked about Jim Inhofe and said, I'm sorry, Eric Fernandez said in response to that, quote, an endless, bottomless pit of corruption. I mean, this situation, all the masks are dropping at this point. The weaknesses of the healthcare system, the selfishness of some of our citizens who are stocking up on toilet paper and Purell, denying other people, right? The fact that our elites don't really care about the average person and will do as little to help them while protecting their precious corporations and bailouts. Who knew that in this time we would find out what the real sickness is? Greed. Okay. So speaking of response, let's go to that. Presidential candidate Joe Biden is getting slammed on social media for doing what many see is very, very little action on preventing corporate stock buybacks in the midst of this crisis. Now, on Twitter, Biden tweeted this out. He said, I am calling on every CEO in America to publicly commit now to not buying back their company's stock over the course of the next year. As workers face the physical and economic consequences of the coronavirus, our corporate leaders cannot cede responsibility for their employees. So that's Biden. And wow, that's incredibly weak. Weak sauce. I mean, all you're doing is asking for a public commitment to not do the thing that they've been doing for years already. After we had bailed them out in 2008 and gave them $1.9 trillion in tax cuts that mostly went to the wealthy and corporations. But Biden, after seeing all that they have done, and you can assume that he wasn't paying attention if you're kind, and now he's asking them to, do the right thing, right? We're expecting the corporations to sit there and do the right thing. On what planet does Joe Biden live on? Oh, right. The one purchased by his donors. Now, this is Hillary Clinton's. I went and I told Wall Street, cut it out. Yes, and they took that very, very seriously, Miss Clinton. Yes, they did. Same energy, same result. Look, these companies, who, by the way, are now receiving massive taxpayer funds in the form of low interest or zero interest loans or near zero interest loans, will have no rules placed on them, preventing them from buying back their own shares in order to inflate their own stock prices. We all know that once the current crisis clears up, they will take all that extra cash, and that's exactly what they're going to do. But here, look, the point is to point out that this is the kind of feckless leadership that we can expect under Joe Biden. Strongly worded letters and tweets calling on corporate America to do the right thing, but no actual action, no legislation, no push for legislation, no open rebuke if you do the wrong thing. I mean, Joe Biden didn't come out there and say, by the way, if you don't do it, I'm going to push for legislation to throw you in prison. No, not going to say that. Nope, we're not going to fine you. He doesn't say that. He just says, please, corporate America, please do the right thing. Please don't buy back your own stock. after we bail you out. And by the way, they're not even working. They're barely working on the Democrats. I mean, or at least the establishment Democrats aren't even working on anything that is going to be good for the American worker. Now, exceptions, of course, to that is Maxine Waters, who put out an excellent piece of legislation, which includes, preventing stock buybacks, which includes $2,000 a month UBI. This is a lot of the stuff that Bernie Sanders has been calling for. But with Joe Biden, it's strongly worded letters. And you better not do that, or we're going to do nothing, just like we've done nothing before. Well, great. Fantastic. Now, we need actual legislation. We need actual, rules, right? We do need people to go to jail. They didn't go to jail after the 2008 crisis, when they should have. These CEOs who willfully crashed the markets in order to get golden parachutes and to get bailed out. You know what country did that? I believe it was Iceland. They jailed the bankers, and they were able to write their economy up very quickly and recover quickly. We didn't do that, and we're still feeling the effects of 2008. So now, I want to go to some responses here on social media, because these are great. Chris B says, how about we just ban companies from buying back their stocks? Capitalists cannot be trusted to do the right thing. It's true. They're all about short-term monetary gain, short-term profit. And here's the thing. They're set up that way. Even if a CEO wants to do the right thing, they have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. So if this CEO says, you know what, you're right, I'm not going to do stock buybacks, that CEO would be replaced by the board in 1.5 seconds. Replaced with someone who will do that, who will go and buy back their own stock or do whatever it takes to get maximum short-term profit. For that, we go to Menards, right? So now in Michigan, Menards was caught jacking up prices for household cleaners. They doubled their prices in store. Again, it's the reckless pursuit of profit. But understand, if they didn't do that, then the board will replace the CEO with someone who will. Because that is what corporate America is about. That's why we need rules on corporate America. That's why we need actual legislation that holds people accountable. That's why you have to have government involved setting the rules. All right. So now more. The Ginger Rose, Bernie beats Trump, says, gee golly, Joe, I bet they're scared now. Little snark there. Fight the War, F the Norm, says, I'm pretty sure that's in the bill, Joe. You'd know that if you were involved in helping Americans at all. And of course, that's referencing the Maxine Waters House bill, which I mentioned before, is excellent. And it's not just Maxine Waters. Surprisingly enough, you have Jim Clyburn, who is also on board, or at least on board with those $2,000 a month payments until this crisis is over. Randy Ping says, and if they do, then what? Oh, yeah, you're going to say knock it off, right? That will certainly show them. Oh, I love the snark from you guys. It's fantastic. And then Robert Holenda says, do what you should have done in 2009 and make stock buybacks illegal. Yes. Why should a company be able to buy back its own stock? I mean, especially after getting a tax cut. That artificially inflates their own stock prices and skews the market. It's not a fair marketplace now. And as far as Biden is concerned, Biden was VP during the recovery or the recession, right? TARP, which was a massive bailout, bailed out the banks, but the banks, in return, yes, they paid off the loans to the government, but those loans were either low interest or no interest loans. And then once they paid those off, and they touted as, well, we paid back the taxpayer, and so we can do whatever we want with the excess money that we got since we are able to stay in business thanks to the taxpayer. So what we're going to do is, instead of raising wages and investing in our companies, what we're going to do is we're just going to buy back our own stock. All while American citizens were literally losing their homes. Again, people have not recovered from that recession, and now we have a worse one. And this is the best the Democratic leadership, the establishment, can vomit up is Joe Biden. Great. Awesome. I mean, look, you want to talk about leadership. Bernie Sanders is not only doing his job, right, but he's also doing fireside chats. He's doing live streams to keep you up to date what's going on of the efforts in Congress. He's doing daily briefings. He's urging his supporters on mailing lists to go and donate to different charities. A lot of you Bernie Sanders supporters, you guys got that email, right? Split $5 donation between 5 different charities that are going to help people during this crisis. I mean, since he's not since he's not president, there's only so much he can do. And he's in Congress and he's working on legislation to try to help the American people. He is actually doing real leadership. And by the way, he's still in the middle of a presidential primary. I know a lot of corporate Democrats are like, well, primary's over. He's never going to catch up. Yeah, he's down by what? 400 delegates now. Look, it's very difficult for him to be able to catch up. Incredibly difficult, but it's not quite over. And look, he shouldn't drop out anyway, because as soon as he does, well, then nobody's going to take him seriously. His voice. We're going to lose that voice and that advocacy for the very same policies that would actually really, really, really help people in this country right now. And by the way, would also help people in this country would have helped them beforehand. That's what I'm saying. But I love this, and this is salty Bernie for you. He told a reporter that, hey, I'm too busy right now. I'm fighting an effing pandemic, so I'm a little bit busy. I love it. But while Bernie Sanders is doing that, where's Joe Biden? Well, apparently he's on Twitter sending politely worded suggestions to corporations, but otherwise pretty much hiding, not doing a whole lot. And even Donald Trump seems to be out there more than Joe Biden, even though he's making people facepalm. And that really kind of says a lot about the kind of leadership that we can expect from Joe Biden. Okay. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got the Gamestop story, and we have one of these insane medical bills. So I want to talk about that, all that stuff coming up right after the break. Stay right here, Around the Nation.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Alder here with you. Yes, it was a quick break because we got to get moving. First, before we do, thank some patrons, patreon.com/TWT Nation. I want to thank Christopher Nelson and Jake Jonas for supporting us. It's patreon.com/TYT Nation. That's how you can sign up to support us. Look, I know it's tough, right? It's tough for everybody, tough for us as well. That's why if you can, please consider helping us out. so that we can stay on the air during this incredibly difficult time, so I can continue to do my best to inform you guys and give you the progressive perspective. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. I totally understand. At the end of the day, you got to do what's best for your family and yourself. So, nonetheless, if you've got anything extra, please help us out. Okay. Channel memberships, or should say channel members. I want to thank Alex Roby and Paul Davidson. So thank you. That's channel memberships. You can sign up for that by hitting the join button below. We also have a fundraiser going on. I know, again, I hate doing them, especially at this time, but desperate times call for what? Desperate measures. Indeed. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. Let's go to GameStop. Or actually not, because they should be closed. Struggling retail chain GameStop recently told all of its stores this afternoon, or I should say yesterday. Let me start that again. I'm sick today, so I get a do-over. Struggling video game retail chain GameStop recently told all of its stores to stay open in the event of a city or state lockdown. So now these lockdowns have hit places like San Francisco, and other states and municipalities are also talking about doing a lockdown as well in order to slow the spread of the recent pandemic. Now, GameStop says, yeah, I know, we'll take that into advisement, but no, we're not going to do that. They claim that they're an essential retail business. Now, look, I know there's a lot of people that are self-quarantining. I know there's a lot of people that are staying home or working from home or, have lost their jobs, and they need something to do. I get it. That's why there's a lot of Netflix binging going on. Excuse me. And why a lot of people are, just staying home playing video games. But that does not make you essential. I mean, essential businesses are grocery stores so that people can feed themselves, and pharmacies. Those are also incredibly essential. GameStop, not so much. But here's their statement, according to Kotaku. Due to the products we carry that enable and enhance our customers' experience in working from home, we believe GameStop is classified as essential retail and is able to remain open during this time. We have received reports of local authorities visiting stores in an attempt to enforce closure, despite our clarification. Store managers are approved to provide the document link below to law enforcement as needed. That document, of course, is basically telling police officers, go harass corporate. Oh, okay, just go call corporate. Leave us alone. And basically go, call the office and either get nobody, probably, or get put on hold. And then when you do get somebody, they'll just tell you to F off. I mean, come on, dude. Really? Oh, you don't like our policy? Okay, go F off. Now, look, I'm a gamer. I take my video games very seriously, right? I am telling you, this is BS. There is no reason for GameStop to be open. GameStop is not essential. I mean, yes, as I mentioned before, pharmacies are essential. Grocery stores, essential. Hacky game shops, not essential. And here's the thing, right? If you want a game, in this day and age, there's something called there's called downloads, right? Now, I know not everybody has access to high-speed internet. I get that. And those are some of the people that are left out. But at this point, you really shouldn't be out in stores anyway, unless it's absolutely essential. Going out, rushing out and getting Doom Eternal is not is not essential. It's not an emergency. You could probably wait a month or two, however long this takes. I mean, it's really important. And by the way, you know what? You know who has Doom Eternal? I do. I downloaded it. And so, I mean, again, you can download these games. And for those who don't have access to that game, I'm not really sure you can afford to be spending, during this crisis, money at GameStop anyway. And so, but here's the thing about GameStop. They're not really, yes, they sell video games, right? And their trade-in program is ridiculous, right? Yeah, we'll give you 5 cents for this almost new game that you bought off the shelves like 3 days ago. No, it's ridiculous. But it's not so much about games. This is about selling merchandise, t-shirts, toys. All that stuff is physically in the store. And they want you in that store so that you will impulse buy this stuff. And that's how GameStop has worked for quite some time. Right now, going into GameStop is a terrible idea. Not just for you, but also for the workers as well. Workers at GameStop, you got to understand, like, here's the thing. I'm on their side. You may think, well, you want to close down a GameStop. You don't think they should be open. Well, what are these people going to do? Well, that's why we need comprehensive action to get cash into the hands of everyone who needs it. That's why Congress actually has to work to do not only a UBI, but a moratorium on rents, mortgages, credit card payments, that kind of stuff until this crisis clears. But also, again, UBI, really important, temporary, right? And also expanded unemployment benefits, which some of these people, if GameStop does close down, would be eligible for. As long as we get money into the hands of regular working people and people out of those physical stores. And so, it's very concerning for these employees. One of them told Kotaku, quote, "Been with the company almost a decade. This is indefensible." It really is. And they're getting a lot of pushback on this. Let's see. Tesla robot FaceHerb. I don't get it either, but says, "Buy your games online, cancel your pre-orders. Everything you're seeing is true, and it's worse than you think." Elijah Mattias says, "A long time ago, I worked for this company. Their greed, underhanded practices, and outright contempt for their employees has only become worse in the nearly 15 years since. Nobody needs GameStop. GameStop needs us. Keep that in mind." And another user said, "As a former GameStop manager, I promise they don't care about you or their employees' well-being." And all of that is under the hashtag boycott GameStop. And so, yes, let's just say this, right? We shouldn't be enriching corporations who put profits over people, especially during times like this, but also never, because that is never okay. That practice is terrible. These corporations, they don't deserve our business. And it's never been so true than with the case of GameStop. So whatever you do, do not shop there. They, again, have a history of treating their employees badly, doing bad business practices, putting profit over people. And look, this is something I have shopped at GameStop before. I have bought games from GameStop. Not any longer, because, again, all of these things show that they don't care about regular people. And we need to actually give businesses that do care about their employees our business instead. And for God's sakes, if you can, just download the games online. Okay. All right. All right, hold on here. A patient of COVID-19 just received an insane medical bill for her treatment. So now this is the story of Dianne Feinstein. And she had presented with the normal, usual symptoms of COVID-19, chest pain, shortness of breath, a migraine, all at once. She called her doctor. She was immunocompromised as she has lymphoma. So now she went through the BASB of different tests. Said maybe it's your medication. Maybe you have maybe you have an issue with your lungs, pneumonia, and then finally, when she was able to get tested for it, she ended up getting tested positive for COVID-19. So now she was treated for it, and now she's okay. So all of this happened back in February, right? Now, the bill that she received from this is astoundingly abhorrent. She received a bill for $34,927.43. Wow. So now when she received that bill, she was like, wait, what? She said, I personally don't know anybody who has that kind of money. Well, most of us don't. And that's why it's such a shock when you see our healthcare system in action, because our health insurance system in action. So this is the problem, right? Now, like 27 million other Americans, Feinstein was uninsured when she first entered the hospital. She and her husband have been planning to move to Washington, D.C. so she could take a new job. She hadn't started it. And of course, there's a lot of insurance, like if you go to a new job that offers health insurance, it normally doesn't kick in for about 90 days. So if you have an emergency in between that, the time that you quit your job and don't have, or previous job and don't have health insurance, and you go to the new job and their, health insurance plan doesn't kick in, if you get sick in between there, then, well, you're basically screwed. And that's it. I mean, and that's exactly what happened to her. Now, public health experts predict that tens of thousands of people will also be in that same position as Dianne Feinstein. In fact, Congress has yet to address the problem, as noted. Now, on March 18th, it did pass the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which does cover the testing costs, but nobody has addressed treatment. And that's where the lion's share of the costs come from. It's not just testing, it is treatment. And it's also the fact that so many people are uninsured. Or even if you have insurance, the costs are still astronomical. In fact, a new analysis by the Kaiser Family Foundation estimates that the average cost of COVID-19 treatment for someone with employer insurance and without any complications would be about $9,763. $9,000. If you have complications, you could be paying $20,000. That's with employer-sponsored insurance. That is insane. Now, most private health plans are likely to cover the services needed to treat the complications, but alongside of that, you end up having deductibles. You also have, of course, the annual deductible, by the way, is about $1,600. For individual plans, the costs are higher. The average deductible for an individual bronze plan was about $5,861, according to Health Pocket. You also have out-of-pocket costs of somewhere around more than $1,300. And those costs were similar regardless of complications. And so not only that, but you have copays too. Those costs are about 15 to 20% for an in-network doctor. If you end up getting an out-of-network doctor, well, that actually increases the cost quite a bit because your insurance plan will not cover if that doctor happens to be out of network. So that's insane. And if you're not insured, like Dianne Feinstein, it's even worse. And so, look, there is some action on this. Several states, including Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, Rhode Island, and Washington, have created special enrollment periods to allow more people to sign up for insurance. But again, if you can't afford that, well, then that's not going to help you all that much. No, what we need is universal health care. We don't need private insurance. We need the government. I mean, look, in the intervening crisis, just expand Medicaid to everybody, right? We already have a system in place. But in the long term, we need Medicare for all. Because right now, these bills are ruining families. These plans, I mean, this this entire situation that we are in right now is unprecedented, and we are vastly underprepared for what's going to happen. Again, the worst has not happened in the United States yet. There's going to be a shortage of hospital beds, and there's going to be a shortage of ventilators and other PPE equipment, or just PPE equipment like masks and gowns and things like that. But that's not even factoring the long-term cost for people who don't have insurance. People who, yes, will likely survive, like this person who was lucky enough to be able to survive a diagnosis and treatment. But those bills, they don't go away. How do you handle $34,000 for a bill? I mean, that's the problem with our health insurance system. That's why we need to change. And that's why we need politicians that are bold enough to be able to propose and enact that change. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening even under this massive crisis. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Thank you for the super chats. Please consider supporting us. Patreon.com/UATNation as usual. Got the fundraiser going on as well. So thank you. If you can donate anything, please do so. I'm going to be taking the weekend to try and to feel better. Again, thank you for all the well wishes on that front. And hopefully we'll see you on Monday. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. Have a good weekend.
Mike Pounds. Tolerate it.
Please clap.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.